Hello, so I have a little story for y'all. I went to my rheumatology appointment yesterday. Was it yesterday? Was it the day before? Anyway, Saturday. So I get there. Well, my appointment it wasn't until 4 o'clock. I turn up because the doctor calls me early and he says, "Oh, I've had a cancellation coming on in early." So I was like, "No problem. I can come in early. That's fine. I'm already ready because my ADHD is like, if I don't get ready at 9 o'clock for a 4 o'clock appointment, I will be late." So I was already ready to go. I had all my things, had all my paperwork, had all my medication, had a list of everything. So I had naturally a binder with me of just nonsense that's been going on. And I haven't seen a rheumatologist since before COVID, right? So I've not seen one for quite a while now. And I kid you not, I goes in, I get my height done and my blood pressure, and that's all fine. And I sit down with this doctor, and he's like, "Right, okay, run me through your history." And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I was like sitting up. I'm like, "Yeah, I got this." I was like flicking through my binder. I'm like, "Yeah, I got this. I know what's been up with me. I know all the words. I know all the medication. I've remembered it all." So I'm there, ready, focused, and I go through everything. And if he's like, "Okay, okay, okay," he's like, "Hop onto this couch." Not this couch, this bed thing. And if anyone's been to a rheumatology appointment, this is their number one. Let me put some pillows up so you can sit, and I can show you exactly what they did. So, if any of you guys have been to a rheumatology appointment, this is the exam. Blows your mind, right? You ready? They look at your hand. Mind my nails, I chew my nails because, I'm weird. So look at your hand, and they're like, "Okay." Like, "Yeah, bend, 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 bend." And then they're like, "Hmm." And then they're like, "Hmm, hmm." And then like, eh. And they do that with both of your hands and both of your feet, and then your knees and your hips. And then they look at them and they're like, "Let me have a look at this." Now, for the record, look at these hands. Right, this finger is migrating. Like, my fingers are not straight at all. They used to be straight, but then this bad boy is just, this joint is just messed up. So I'm there going, okay, I'm like pointing it out. I'm like, okay, so I'm not flaring up right now. I was like, got no inflammation this morning. I take my vitamins, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so I'm not got any inflammation this second. I was like, however, this finger, these knuckles are very sore on a morning. I can't grab stuff, and I keep getting leg twitches and the usual, go through all the symptoms. And he's like, okay. And then he looks at me square in the eyes. That's the whole test, by the way. That's the everything. That's all they do. That's the full test. And he looks me square in the eyes and says, "Okay, I think your arthritis is in remission." And I'm sat there like, go on. And now that is a good thing. I should be like, "Woo, remission. Fantastic." I would be if my whole entire body didn't feel like a goddamn Ryvita biscuit that's just at one flick away from crumbling into a million pieces. But that I was sat there going, okay. And I said to him, I did this face. I was like, okay, that's good. I'm like, do you not need to take bloods to see what my ESR levels are, my inflammation in my blood is? No. Do you not need to, it's like, I can't see any damage to your joints. And I'm like, no, it's worse than what it was a few years ago for me personally. I can see the damage, but I was like, so you don't need to take an x-ray, to see, compare it to, 5 years ago when I got diagnosed, or whether, to look at it between the two the contrasting pictures and go, yeah, actually. Or is this guy secretly Superman and's got x-ray goddamn vision into looking into my joints? Because he looked me square in the eyes and was like, "Yeah, I don't see any damage." I'm like, "Well, thanks. I don't see any pain every morning, but I feel it radiating through my entire body, but that's all right." And then he goes on to go, I was like, okay, so what's the next step? He's like, "How much do you sleep?" And I'm like, well, since coming off all of my meds, cold turkey 2 weeks ago, which was the most horrific moment of my entire life, I wouldn't recommend it. And, you know, he was like, you shouldn't have done that. I'm like, no shit, I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, you tell that to my GP who stopped prescribing me my drugs. But that's a story for a different day. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not on any drugs. So I'm like, okay, I don't sleep very well. I maybe sleep an hour, maybe 2, because every time I go to sleep, I get a twitch, and then, you know, I'm like fling my arm up, my joints pop all over the place, and then I'm in agony, and I'm wide awake again. And he's like, okay. What I would suggest, and I think is the most important thing, is getting good sleep hygiene. I'm like, good sleep hygiene? Okay, I'm like, what does that consist of? Because at the moment what I do is I go to bed and I'm like, I'm shattered. My entire body is fatigued as fuck. I just want to sleep. I get into bed and then I'm like, my joints are like, nah. Instant radiation of pain throughout my entire skin and body. So then I'm like, right, okay, I'm not going to sleep. So I'll get up and I'll walk around the house. Or I'll get up and I'll sit and I'll watch some TikTok or something. And then I'll get back into bed. And then I'll get back up again, because obviously good sleep hygiene is only going to bed when you want to sleep and having no media on. But the moment I have no media, all I can think about is the pain that's going on in my entire body. That could be from like one night maybe having the quilts touching my skin that feels like I'm about to get absolutely, like my skin's being peeled off by a cheese grater. Or whether that's a case of it's a more casual night where it's just my hips and my joints can't seem to get comfortable in their own sockets, so I have to keep moving, which all leads me to having no sleep at all. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, okay, I was like, well, the sleeping tablets used to help me sleep, but obviously I'm not on them anymore. He's like, okay, yeah, well, actually, this is what I said, actually only a small percentage of people actually get the benefits of medication. We're trying not to medicate people now because we don't think the benefits outweigh the cons of taking all these drugs. And I'm sat there thinking, I'm like, not good for you, mate, who doesn't suffer from anything. I was like, I'm sat here, honestly, wanting to yeet myself out of the window most days because of the pain, but that's fine. I'm in remission, according to you and your X-ray goddamn goggles. And do you know what the outcome was of all of this? Me sat in the car park, bawling my eyes out, because he's like, oh yeah, we're not going to give you anything. And as for the fibro, what you need to do is go to cognitive behaviour therapy and see a private chiropractor. And I'm like, I don't have the money for a chiropractor. I don't have the time to sit and listen to a cognitive behaviour therapy going, I'm not saying it's all in your head, but the wires are getting crossed. Jesus. I'm like, I know the pain isn't real. I know logically my brain is wired incorrectly. Like, I know when I get into a shower, it's water hitting my body, right? And it doesn't hurt. It shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't hurt. However, when I get into a shower, I can't help but feel like I'm getting tiny knives thrown at my face throughout the entire showering process. And I'm just like, what kind of cognitive behaviour therapy is going to fix that? But you know what? I'm willing to give it a go. I'm open-minded. I'm like, yeah, I'll give this a go. But what I would like to do is maybe back your theories up with some concrete evidence, like blood tests. And, you know, even if I could see my own x-rays and see that there wasn't any difference between now and 5 years ago. However, me and him both don't know what my ESR levels are. Both don't know what any of my blood counts or any of my other like things that you have to check for levels are, because he didn't do any blood test. I've not had a blood test since I want to say 2018. Like, and on top of that, like, he's not even done an x-ray. I'm like sat there going, my knee feels like it's going to pop out. I fell down the stairs and broke my elbow. No x-rays. No x-rays. Just, I can see the arthritis is cured. I'm like, that's great. I wish I would give anything for my arthritis to be in remission. Anything. However, I find it very difficult to believe a guy that didn't do any tests and just looked at me. I mean, it's just very frustrating. Anyway, so I had like a little mini breakdown in the car park. A wee stranger tapped my window, me bawling my eyes out, ugly crying, hyperventilating. And he was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, my life is over." Like, and this guy probably didn't even give me a second thought for the rest of the day. Like, he was probably on to his next patient, you know, going about his little life, his little happy life. And slightly, I really wish I knew an actual, proper, legit witch, because I would give anything just to give him all my pain for like a good 72 hours. I think that should be enough time for him to realise how much pain I'm in. So if anyone knows, anyone that does that sort of thing, give me a shout, because I'll be down for, you know, giving it to someone else for a few days. But what is the NHS doctors all about? Have I missed something? Does COVID give people like X-ray vision? Is that what happened? It's not a flu at all. It's just like they give them superpowers that they can see into people's bloods and X-rays and be like, you look like you're in remission. Honestly, I've had enough of this year. Anybody else go to a doctor that's like that? That's just absolute needs their medical license torn up. I could be a better doctor than him. At least I'd actually do the tests. I won't presume I can see stuff that nobody can see. And just cause my joints aren't as bad as like an 80-year-old who's had rheumatoid arthritis for like 10 years that has been undiagnosed for like, 9 of those 10 years, and her fingers are all, off to the shops on their own. Just because I don't look that bad, surely I should be taken seriously if I'm saying this is how I feel. Now, it was like, we can't give you any more drug. I don't want to go back on methotrexate. I was like, I'm not here to go back on methotrexate. I hate that drug. I would rather, honestly, go on any other drug in the world than that drug, because it was just awful. However, I got the impression that he thought I was just there just to be like, give me the strongest medication you have, because I'm a massive junkie and I want my entire body to vomit its own, organs out every Saturday and have no life, because Sunday and Saturday I'm dead from taking my methotrexate injection on a Friday, and this will continue persistently throughout the rest of my life. I would rather be healthy and nice and, be a normal human being and function of society. But that's just not on my cards. And I just felt really fobbed off because of him. And if I knew his name, I would be naming and shaming. So he best hope he never sees me again, because I am going to be recording the whole thing next time, because he made me feel like an absolute piece of trash. I mean, like, what kind of examination was that? And then to just go, I think you're in remission. I think is not a statement I want to be hearing from a doctor. And then to top it off with like no bloods. I was like, I'm supposed to get my bloods done every 2 weeks because of the medication I was on. But I haven't had any bloods taken since like 2018. And he was like, well, I can say that I think you're in remission. He just like glossed over everything I said to him and just was like, nah, you're good. On you go. But I could rant about this for days. But I'm just going to end up getting myself all upset again. But, Jesus. The NHS needs to get their finger out and, I don't know, actually start taking people seriously. Because it's just a joke. It just makes you feel like you're trying to scam the system. Even though what I'm saying is, like, factually true for me. I'm like, I am in pain. I am, my skin does hurt when I go into a shower. I do feel fatigue all of the time. And I just feel like it gets fobbed off because I'm not in the category to be extremely, riddled with arthritis, which I'm grateful that I'm not. But I'm also not in the category of being fit and healthy. So I'm sort of in this middle zone that makes no sense, because nobody wants to treat you. And nobody wants to, you're not sick enough for them to be like, oh, I've seen worse. You're not that worse person, and you're not well enough to be functioning. So I'm just like in a no man land. So yeah. Sorry about the 15-minute rant. I just needed it to get it off my chest. But yeah. If you've got stories like this, please let me know that I'm not alone, and I'm sorry that you've been through it too. But Jesus, this guy needs his license like revoked or something. Maybe doctors should be made to go for like retraining on how to be nice people every few years, because they seem to miss that. There's like all they see all day is sick people, so then they're like, oh well, every sick person is a dick, which is not the case. You shouldn't judge people just because of how they look, and if they don't suit your ideal of how your specialist subject looks. It's just very depressing. But thanks for listening to my rant. Bye.